Those who try to deceive may expect to get paid in their own coin. Another eye for an eye type fable by Aesop. The Dog, the Cock, and the Fox. Welcome to episode 6 of Deconstructing Aesop's Fables. I'm Jon Wilkins. A lighthearted look at Aesop's fables and what they mean in today's world. Let's deconstruct each fable to find out who is learning the lesson and what really the lesson is to be learned. The Dog, the Cock, and the Fox. A dog and a cock, who were best of friends, wished very much to see something of the world, so they decided to leave the farmyard and to set out into the world along the road that led to the woods. The two comrades traveled along in the very best of spirits and without meeting any adventure to speak of. At nightfall, the cock, looking for a place to roost, as was his custom, spied nearby a hollow tree that he thought would do very nicely for a night's lodging. The dog could creep inside and the cock would fly up on one of the branches. So said, so done, and both slept very comfortably. With the first glimmer of dawn, the cock awoke. For the moment, he forgot just where he was. He thought he was still in the farmyard where it had been his duty to arouse the household at daybreak. So standing on his tiptoes, he flapped his wings and crowed lustily. But instead of awakening the farmer, he awakened a fox not far off in the wood. The fox immediately had a rosy vision of a very delicious breakfast. Hurrying to the tree where the cock was roosting, he said very politely, "A hearty welcome to our woods. Honored sir, I cannot tell you how glad I am to see you here. I am quite sure we shall become the closest of friends." "I feel highly flattered, kind sir," replied the cock slyly. "If you will please go around to the door of my house at the foot of the tree, my porter will let you in." The hungry but unsuspecting fox went around the tree as he was told, and in a twinkling, the dog had seized him. Those who try to deceive may expect to be paid in their own coin. If you haven't heard about Anker, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anker will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money on your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anker app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, here we go with this one. We've got a dog and a cock who decide to leave the farm and go and have themselves an adventure. They're good buddies. They're best of friends. A dog and a cock. That makes total sense. They go on their adventure. They're having a merry old time. And then they stop to get some sleep for the night. And the cock finds a tree that would be perfect for this cock. And then the dog can just kind of get in there afterwards, after the cock gets perched up on his tree. Everything's wonderful on this adventure together, and they're best of friends. Morning comes. The cock is disoriented, for lack of a better word. He doesn't realize that he's not in his own environment, does his cock-a-doodle-doo thing, and it goes throughout the forest because he doesn't know where he is. The fox, who shows up in a lot of different stories, always crafty, total opportunist, hears the cock And it's probably like, what is that sound in the forest? That should definitely be in a farm. I'm going to go take an opportunity and see if I can eat this cock. So the fox is going to eat this cock. The dog and the cock are best of friends. So far, sounds great. The cock isn't dumb, because you find out later in the story that he deceives the fox and gets him pretty much murdered by the dog. Again, more murder showing up in these Aesop's fables for children. Animal on animal violence, which is also disturbing. We have some facts. The cock is disoriented. Its regular morning routine is going through its head, but it's not where it's supposed to be. So this fox takes an opportunity. He goes up. He's like, hey, man, let's be friends. Obviously, he's got the intentions of eating this cock, but whatever. The cock gets angry about it. And then he says, oh, why don't you come around the back of my house and my porter will let you in. Like, this cock lives in this tree, like it's its regular mansion or whatever this thing is. But does the dog even know that this is going on? I mean, he probably hears some rumbling in the front, but it's kind of like when you're watching a movie and you hear that there's rustling going on in the front, and then you're like, well, should I get my gun? Or should I get my bat? Or should I get my Bible? Or should I get my wife? Or should I protect my kids? Or should I jump out the window? Or who knows what you should do? But that's sort of what's going on here. The dog doesn't know what's happening because I don't think they had any time to set this up beforehand. So the dog's just as surprised as the fox. Also, doesn't seem very fair to all the players. Self-awareness is very important. I find this to be something that people lack all the time. I probably lack it in, some occasions, but I try my best to, be self-aware. Know what your surroundings are. Know what you can and can't say. The cock is kind of acting like a puppet master. The dog will surely attack the fox because that's just in its nature. Part of the process of deconstructing the fable is learning about the characters. So the dog, much like any dog, he's just friendly, he's a good companion, he's a good traveling companion, he's a friend to have, but I don't think he expected necessarily to be a guard. But, I mean, dogs do that. That's in their nature, to guard things. The fox is just being the fox. He's crafty. He's the master fox is what they call him in a lot of the different fables. But there was one I just read where he's trying to convince the other foxes to get rid of their tails because he loses his tail. They're out for themselves. They're opportunists. So he hears a cock in the forest. Let's call it a rooster. This is getting disturbing, like calling it a cock all the time. But he hears this rooster calling, and then all of a sudden, he's the bad guy for, maybe he's being friendly before he wants to eat it. I saw Charlotte's Web. They were real nice to that pig before they ate him. The cock is a dick, really. Like, he's just, that's what he is. I think Aesop, even back in the day, like that was 2,800 years ago, however long it was, that was probably the same concept. He was the cock, for sure. Like, he woke up in the wrong place, and then he was unaware, and then he triggered a response from the fox to say, hey, I'm going to come eat you. The fox comes up, and he's like, hey, man, we're so happy to see you. Like, why can't he just be like, hey, piss off. I know you just want to eat me. I'm up here in this tree, and you can't get me. And if you want to, I've got a dog in this tree with me, and I'll kick your butt. But no, he doesn't do that. He tries to deceive him. And he's saying because the fox is trying to deceive him to begin with. But the fox doesn't have any tricks up his sleeve this time. It's actually a little counterintuitive to the way the fox usually acts. The cock basically creates this situation. Then the dog ends up taking care of the fox so that the cock, who probably wouldn't have gotten hurt anyway, it doesn't seem fair. There's a lot of drama caused by the cock. Some similar examples I can think of are, one, you go to New York with your friends, but you're from Boston or Baltimore, somewhere where the baseball teams are extreme rivals. So you go there, you're hanging out, you wake up the next morning, your hair's a mess, you don't even think about it. You throw on your Orioles hat or your Red Sox hat or whatever New York hates. You go downstairs, you get some coffee, and then when someone says, "Hey man, nice hat," kind of being a smart aleck about it, then your mom comes and punches him in the face. Or let's say you're a cowboy and you leave Colorado for whatever reason, and you also head to New York because it's a great place to be. And when someone in Central Park says howdy to you because you're wearing a cowboy hat, your sister comes up and lassos them and hogties them to the Central Park carousel. These are innocent people just kind of being smartasses, and then what, you gonna kill them over it? Anyway, the dog is an innocent traveler, a happy companion, and he has to be a guard. The fox is an opportunist, maybe a little slick, and then the cock is a dick. The cock is a dick. Those who deceive others may expect to get paid back in their own coin. I don't know if it's the same coin when you come up and you say, "Hey man, let's be friends," because you're going to want to try and eat somebody because you're a fox and they're a cock that made a mistake in the middle of the woods where they shouldn't have been to begin with, and then you get beaten up by a dog. That just doesn't seem right. That's just my opinion of this fable. The whole situation could have been avoided. Just like a lot of situations can be avoided all the time if people were just a little bit cooler. Well, that has been this fable. This has been a lot of fun. I have been Jon Wilkins, and this is Deconstructing Aesop's Fables. Tune in again for the next fable, and I'll see if I can confuse you on that one too. Hello, this is Jon Wilkins. If there is a specific fable that you would like deconstructed, I am happy to do it. Find Aesop's Fables on Facebook and then pick out a fable that's been read, and I'll be happy to deconstruct that one sooner than another one. Also, if you're familiar with Hit Record, I have a project there where you can write your own fable. Input is always welcome. Just send a message. Links are in the details section.